Let's begin with President Muhammad Buhari's nationwide address, where he directed the use of the old and new 200 naira notes alongside the new 500 naira and 1000 naira banknotes. The president went further to say that the old 500 naira and 1000 naira banknotes are no longer legal tender in Nigeria. President Buhari's directive is coming barely a day after the Supreme Court extended the use of the old naira notes pending the hearing of the suit billed for Wednesday next week. There is more in this report.
Associated with money
laundering. A national broadcast that was widely anticipated, but leaves so much more to be desired. The Central Bank of Nigeria's currency redesign policy has drastically weakened the purchasing power of citizens, an outcome that was least expected. President Muhammadu Buhari's directive that the old 200 naira notes should be reintroduced as legal tender contradicts suggestions made by the Nigeria Governors Forum and the advice of the Council of States for the old currency to coexist with the new naira notes until they are gradually phased out.
I have given approval to the CBN that the old 200 naira banknotes be released back into circulation, and that it should also be allowed to circulate as legal tender with the new 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1000 naira banknotes for 60 days from February 10th, 2023 to April 10th, 2023, when the old 200 naira notes ceases to be legal tender.
The president has not considerably shifted grounds. He insists this currency redesign will restore the statutory ability of the Apex Bank to keep a firm control over the money in circulation, as about 2.1 trillion naira out of the banknotes previously held outside the banking system had been successfully retrieved.
I have been reliably informed that since the commencement of this program, about 2.1 trillion naira out of the banknotes previously held outside the banking system had been successfully retrieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari seems excited that the new monetary policy will contribute to the minimization of the influence of money in politics, which he says is a bold legacy step by his administration to improving the electoral process. But for Nigerians, the biggest gain will be to have access to cash, as they will have to wait for the central bank to improve the circulation of the new naira notes. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
And just a few hours after President Buhari directed the use of the old 200 naira note alongside other redesigned currencies, reactions are now pouring in from Nigerians. Now, a civil society organization has condemned the president for affirming only the old 200 naira notes as legal tender is against the old 500 naira notes and 1000 naira notes. The group, in a press statement issued by the group executive director, Nelson Ekujimi, says pronouncing just the 200 naira notes as legal tender goes against the Supreme Court's order, and as such is contempt of court, and has asked the president to retract the order. The group also condemned the violence in some parts of the country as a result of the naira redesign policy, which has caused scarcity of the naira, and has asked Nigerians to remain calm. Still reacting to President Buhari's broadcast, the columnist Sam Omache says the president is implying that he's above the law. Mr. Omache reacted earlier on TVC News Breakfast Show.
In this broadcast is that the president has elevated himself above the law by saying that we cannot no longer use the 500 naira bills and the 1000 naira bills as legal tender, whereas the Supreme Court has issued an interim order saying that all three notes, 200, 500, and 1000, should be used while we await the determination of the substantive suit. So what the president has done is to bring a certain military mindset into a democratic society. and to tempt Nigerian people to defy the law, which is, in a sense, a very dangerous trend from a man who was voted in by the people and not by the army.
For more on this development, let's talk to a senior advocate of Nigeria, Paul Ananaba, who joins us live via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us on the news this hour. Looking at Section 235 and Section 287, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, do you consider the president broadcast as a judicial ambush?
Thank you. I do not want to use the word, that expression for the president. The president is the leader of the country, and he deserves all the respect that we can give. However, in this instance, I do not think that the president has acted within the Constitution in making the pronouncement on the 200 naira. He now says is illegal tender from the old currency. The reason is that by those sections 287 and all that of the Constitution, the president is mandated by the Constitution to carry out the decisions of the Supreme Court. In the past, Nigerians are part of this problem, because in the past, the Federal High Court or the State High Court will make pronouncements and we will just sweep them by the side because we consider them lower courts. Today, it has grown to Court of Appeal and are now at the Supreme Court. I don't imagine that the Supreme Court will make a pronouncement and any government official of whatever level goes and to say something contrary to that. We had that in the days of Lakabie and another against Attorney General of the Federation. I didn't know we could get to that, to Lakabie State back again in 2023. So the president has done well by addressing Nigerians, but I believe that the part about the currency that infracts on the orders of the Court of Appeal should be reviewed quickly, so that we don't have a situation of disrespect to the Supreme Court. I don't think the president intended to do that, but having taken that step, he should now know that this is the result of that apparent pronouncement to help the situation. It has not helped the situation, it will rather worsen it. I think the president should review that aspect and let us abide by the position of the Supreme Court until Wednesday. That's the only way to go. We cannot, by executive fiat or presidential speech, impeach or disregard, erode, disrespect, or dishonor an order of the Supreme Court. That's what I think should happen. And every agency and official of government should respect the Constitution. Section 287 is very clear. Every person and authority must obey the orders of the Supreme Court.
Right.
So I don't think that now saying it is only 200 naira and then going further to say that 500 naira and 1,000 are not legal tender.
Professor Ananaba.
It shouldn't be done.
Yeah, Professor Ananaba, Nigerians are actually torn between obeying the injunction of the Supreme Court as well as the Nigeria's president's broadcast. Does this sound more like a sub judice? And if that's the case, what do you think, what would you advise Nigerians to do at this point in time?
I didn't quite get you. If what you're asking what it sounds like?
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Right. I'm saying that Nigerians are actually torn between obeying the Supreme Court's injunction and the president's broadcast of this morning. So I'm asking if the judiciary Supreme Court in this case have actually given an injunction, given an order. Anyone who flouts the order might be, or if the order is being discussed in court already, might be termed as sub judice. So what do you think should happen going forward? What would you advise?
All right, I'll give you a background. The framers of the Constitution placed the legislature as Section 4 of the Constitution and placed the executive as Section 5, placed the judiciary as Section 6. It is deliberate. Now, the actions of the legislature and the executive will be tested and interpreted by the judiciary and by the realist school of jurisprudence. What the courts say and nothing but that is the law. It is what the courts say that is the law. Now, in the situation now that I said, that was why I said there was going to be a crisis because the citizen is left between choosing whether to obey the president's speech or to obey the Supreme Court. And having told you that what the courts say, and the Supreme Court is the court itself, because it is the last court. So I will advise every citizen of Nigeria to obey the Supreme Court because that's what the Constitution says, Section 27. And I believe that the president will address the situation. He will remedy it. I believe so because I don't think that he intended to get what you will be hearing from the citizens. He is the father of the nation, and he cannot ignore his children. He cannot ignore Nigerians. It cannot be that either a president or a governor or any other highly placed person in Nigeria, officer, will, by the person's speech or comment, void an existing pronouncement of the court. We should avoid that as we go forward.
Right.
I don't think it will cause so much problem going forward if the executive realizing that there is Section 5 and the judiciary is in Section 6.
Right.
That if they take those steps now, I look forward to the executive rejigging that narrative so that.
Right, Professor Nanaba, I think we have a bit of connectivity issue with you there, but then making sense of what you said, you're actually appealing to the executive, to the president, to review his directive in the broadcast.
The executive taking steps now, the president.
Absolutely, we got you right. We got you right. Thank you very kindly, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Paul Ananaba. Thank you so much for your insight at this time.